This morning, Hugo and I went for our daily walk down the Toongabbie Creek along the paths and tracks. Outside of the track there's a creek, there's bush tracks, and the sun was shining through the trees and the birds were really loud and beautiful. On the other side there are more paths and tracks and parklands, and the dog park's further up, and he likes to go up there and run with other dogs and chase balls and be off the leash. But to get there you've got to cross over the creek. And as we're crossing over the creek, as we do many days, you walk down a bush track or down the bank and onto a rock platform and cross over the rocks and up the other side. You've actually got to cross over. And it reminded me of when I was, 8 or 9 I suppose, maybe younger. We went on a school excursion and we went into Manly, and it set off and the day was sunny and okay, a bit of a breeze. We got to Manly, up to Sydney Circular Quay, and there was a bit more of a breeze. We set off on the boat, excited little school kids, and the breeze became a bit stronger, more wind, and the harbour was a bit choppy. But then when we get across the face of the Heads, closer to Manly, it was really choppy, and the little ferry was swaying up and down. And I remember sitting near a window and looking out, and at one point you could see just this grey, greenish churning water there, and grey skies up there, and it was scary. It was scary for a little kid who's not used to being on the water in rough weather. Anyway, we got through. We got across okay. This week in our churches, we'll read a story that I always makes me think of that crossing to Manly. Jesus has been preaching all day, teaching the disciples and followers about the reign of God, and bringing the liberating message and hope, and freeing people from the powers and principalities that oppress their lives. And he says to them, let's go across to the other side. And so off they go. They get in the boats and off they go, and he goes to sleep. And as they journey across to the other side, this storm blows up, the winds come in and the rain and the waves blow up. And these fishermen who are used to the sea of Galilee, the lake, are afraid for their lives. And so they wake Jesus and say, don't you care that we're going to die? And he wakes up and he puts out his arms and he stands and he says, peace be still, and the waves and the wind are quietened, and all is well. It's a wonderful story. He asks them, he goes on, he asks them, why don't you have any faith? And they're amazed that, there's connections back into Old Testament stories of God calming the storms. The story of Jonah, who's thrown overboard to save the boat from the ship from the violent storms that they believe was brought on by the gods, and he's swallowed by a whale and all that. There's connections into the Psalms where God talks about peace be still, stilling the storms of our lives. But for me, it's a story about crossing over, because what's happening in the story is they're moving from the clean side, the Jewish side, the side that's safe and stable and secure and known, the known world of theirs, to the unknown world of the Gentiles, that's dark and dangerous and uncertain, filled with pagans and Gentiles and unclean people. And Jesus is going to take this love and grace and liberation of God into the world, to declare the same hope that's been made to the Jewish people, to these Gentile people. And he's crossing over the lake, crossing from one side, from one mindset, from one way of thinking and being to another. He's crossing from what people think is light to darkness. going into the dark and difficult places of life to be a presence of love and grace. And as he goes, the winds and the rain and the storms of life will threaten the mission. And I think the point is, when we engage in these deep acts of love and grace and justice, of liberation, of hope, there will be storms. There'll be opposition. There'll be people who oppose. There'll be powers and principalities who don't like it. When we try and do the right thing, the good thing, the loving thing, there'll be those who resist. Those who don't want what we offer. Who don't want what God offers. And there'll be storms and struggle and challenges. When we try and confront the demons in our own lives, the struggles of grief and loss and pain and shame and addictions and expectations and belief systems, when we try and shrug them off and grow into a new way of being, a way of love that's deeper and richer and more truly human, we will encounter the suffering and the pain of life, the opposition within ourselves and from others. And it won't be easy. The point of this story is that the Christ is with the disciples on the journey across the lake, leads them on that journey and is with them. When the storms are raging, when the storms are quietened, when it's peaceful, when it's messy, God is with them and will sustain them, as God will be with us and sustain us in the storms and the struggles and the challenges of our life. But we've got to get into the boat and we've got to travel. And when we look back on these challenging moments, when we've taken the opportunity or the challenge to go into the new place, to get into the boat and cross over, when we think we're alone and it's all too hard and we're by ourselves, look back and recognise that there are others with you who have shared the journey. People you know and people you don't, strangers who say things and do things and love you. But also there's this presence of Christ, this presence of God, who is with us in everything, who challenges us, who pushes us, who urges us, and who holds us in the deepest, darkest moments and reassures us that God loves us. Regardless of what happens, God is with us. And God will lead us on into the mission and the life that He calls us to. Will you journey in faith, trusting that the Christ is with you? Will you get into the boat and start the journey? Whatever that journey is for you, for your church, for your family, for your group, the invitation's there, and so is the promise that God is with you and will never let you go. Won't take away the hard things, but will walk with you through the valley of the shadow of death, and you can fear no evil, for God is with you. Amen.